Ordinary items, so we go straight into now our second round of presentations from the Auckland Regional Amenities. And I welcome to the front Richard Papatato and Nicola Keane-Bigler from Drowning Prevention Auckland. Morena and good morning. Now, I just want to remind you that when you want to talk, the little red button, that's it.
Kia ora ana, it's Pamatatau. Good morning, everybody. I'm Richard Pamatatau, and I'm the chair of Drowning Prevention Auckland. I'm here on behalf of the board and with our chief executive, Nicola. We'd like to thank you for your generosity so far, and to thank the ARAFA board for its continued support of what we do, which we believe helps contribute to Auckland being the most livable city in the world. I'm now going to hand over to the chief executive, Nicola.
Kia ora everyone, and thank you for this opportunity to address you this morning and for the first time in my role as Chief Executive of Drowning Prevention Auckland. As Richard has already acknowledged, the last 12 months have been a testing time for leadership, resiliency and ensuring that our community needs are still met. I look forward to sharing with you this morning our key achievements over the last 12 months, some of our challenges and the exciting initiatives that we are embarking on in the year ahead. Firstly, though, I'd like to reiterate my thanks to Auckland Council for their support of DPA through the Auckland Regional Amenities Funding Act levy. It is an enormous privilege to be a specified amenity, and as such, here in service of Auckland's residents and ratepayers. This privilege was significantly apparent through COVID-19, when our funding, albeit reduced from what had been anticipated, enabled me to retain staff and the intellectual property that they have in drowning prevention. Thank you for your support. Drowning Prevention Auckland is the lead and only agency in Auckland with the sole purpose of educating to reduce the number of drownings of our residents and visitors. With 3 harbours, 2 coastlines, 411 kilometres of rivers and 128 kilometres of lake edge, the need is great to educate both residents and ratepayers and visitors to Auckland about how to enjoy our beautiful waterways safely. When looking at national data, the Auckland region has one of the lowest drowning rates in New Zealand, despite the increased exposure due to relatively warm climate, the higher risk with so much water surrounding us, and the higher ethnic diversity. That said, in 2020, there were 15 fatal drownings and 67 non-fatal drownings or hospitalisations. 1 drowning is too many. The need is great, and there is more to do. Over the last 5 years to 2020, in Auckland, 78% of fatal drownings have been male, 18% to age 15 to 24, 32% drowned swimming, 38% drowned at beaches, and increasingly we are seeing older adults drowning, with 20% of fatal drownings in the over 65 age group. That sets the scene for drowning within Auckland, and I now would like to outline some of our key achievements in working to bring this toll down further. Our key achievements this year have been continued delivery despite 12 weeks of COVID alert level impacts. The ability to be agile and adaptive in our methods of education with continued lockdowns. We have utilised podcasts, webinars, and have seen growth in use of our e-learning platform. Growth in partnerships, and a particular note, an improved relationship with Water Safety New Zealand. We also continue to have a positive working relationship with Auckland Council and Surf Lifesaving Northern Region on a number of initiatives, and of note is our 15-year partnership on West Coast rock fishing. We've established 5 life jacket hubs to encourage use of life jackets at a nominal cost, 3 of these in partnership with Coast Guard at the units in Kaipara, Papakura and North Shore, and 1 of these at Bethel Surf Club with bilingual signage to connect with Mandarin-speaking rock fishers. Nearly 25,000 participants in drowning prevention education across the whole spectrum, early childhood, primary, secondary, tertiary, and adults in community settings. We've appointed an Asian advisor given the growing number of Asians drowning within Auckland, and have seen significant uptake and engagement from Korean and Chinese communities. We continue our bespoke programs that are tailored to the different ethnicities that make up Auckland. Growth in our workplace education continues to increase with the training of lifeguards, aquatic first aid courses and emergency care training for pool facilities, including those run by Auckland Council. We've had a successful water safety initiative at Hanua Falls in partnership with YMCA, Water Safety New Zealand and Auckland Council Rangers. This also included the first freshwater site identified on the Safe Swim platform, including hazard messaging for a waterfall environment. This platform is excellent, and we look forward to providing further hazard and safety messaging for non-coastal environments where appropriate. We've commenced providing Water Skills for Life, previously known as the GAP program, in 3 schools over Term 4 and Term 1, and this will grow in the year ahead. With the support of Water Safety New Zealand and Foundation North, our Kai Moana program that teaches Māori communities about safe diving practice grew with 6 additional wānanga provided across Auckland and the far north. Our key challenges this year have been purely in relation to COVID-19. Impact on program delivery and momentum has existed, with our face-to-face delivery halted in level 3 and above. Schools and community groups have been nervous and slow to re-engage in education from outside providers, even when alert levels would mean that would be possible. Staff wellbeing and safety, ongoing alert levels has had an impact on mental health and people's ability to be resilient. We've also had many discussions about how do we keep our team safe and what can we do and what can't we do in terms of a COVID vaccine. Our dependency on funding was significantly heightened in a COVID-impacted world. Funders with reduced fund availability, grants on hold and not being able to deliver, this then impacted our ability to access additional funding because of our own capacity constraints to then deliver. Innovation and growth has been on hold, and this will have a long-term effect. It is important to note and thank those funders that invested in us at increased levels during this time: Foundation North, Water Safety New Zealand, Ethnic Community Development Fund and Maritime New Zealand. Another key challenge has been demonstrating the return on investment and the value of education. Education is often the first thing that is sacrificed when the outcomes are not as demonstrable as rescue, as an example. I believe both are needed in equal measure. If our communities know how to keep themselves safe, then there will be less pressure placed on our volunteer-reliant rescue organisations. So to finish with some positivity and some of our initiatives for the year ahead, many of these are very exciting. The first is leading, alongside Water Safety New Zealand, a water safety strategy for Auckland. The aim is a coordinated and collaborative action plan for water safety in Auckland that identifies priority work streams and investments for drowning prevention. The ultimate outcome is reduced drowning deaths and injuries and a culture of safe enjoyment around water in the Auckland region. There will be 4 work streams and investment priorities: water safety skills and competency development, recreational boating safety, open water safety, and beach and ocean safety. A key challenge as a specified amenity is accessing additional funding from other philanthropic funders, and therefore we are anticipating an increase in our request of the ARAFA board this year to support the strategy development process. The second initiative is continuing to grow our digital footprint and invest in blended ways of learning. We know that experiential learning is best for embedding drowning prevention education. Learning skills in the classroom, testing them in a pool environment, and then seeing how competent you are in an open water environment is the beauty and success of scaffolded learning. It is best practice. The approach is compromised if we have to go to online delivery of our education, yet we are committed to blended online learning with face-to-face education where possible. And the third is continuing to grow our delivery, so doing more as resourcing, both financial and people allow. And finally, we're establishing a Pacific Water Safety Advisory Group to provide guidance and recommendations to DPA on the development and design of plans and programs to improve the quality and consistency of drowning prevention to Pacific peoples. So in closing, thank you again to the Auckland Council for your support of DPA and the other specified amenities through the Auckland Regional Amenities Funding Act. We have more to do, we have more innovative work to invest in, and we look forward to continuing to serve Auckland's residents, ratepayers and visitors so that they are safe in, on and around the water. Now I invite any questions.
Thank you very much. That was a very enlightening presentation. First question from Councillor Henderson.
Thanks, Chair. One of the big issues that we have, particularly in my ward, is around fishing off the rocks in the West Coast. And yeah, terrifying, and we've lost lives there, and it's a big anxiety for people that live out there. I'm wondering whether DPA is interested in kind of getting involved in that kaupapa, and how can we work together to raise awareness on the risks?
So we've been working for 15 years with Council and Surf Lifesaving Northern Region out there, and the research that we continue to do shows that the problem is continual because we have new migrants to Auckland that are unaware of the risks. So there is more work to do around how we can reach people earlier so that they know the risks out on the rocks. The life jacket hub that we've established at Bethel's Beach was, again, trying to be a little bit more innovative, going, what we have done up till now still isn't working. People are still drowning there. How about if we made life jackets more accessible? And what if the signage was actually appropriate so that people can understand that wearing life jackets when you're fishing off the rocks is imperative. So we look forward to seeing if that works and sharing that with you in time.
Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Young.
Thank you for your job and the work, and particularly in the Asian Committee in Auckland. And just take the opportunity, appreciate the last time your staff make the translation, which is article wrote by Councillor Henderson in Mandarin and Korea, which is the awareness of the fishing. Thank you very much.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Filipina. A comment then. Yes, please. Yep.
Tēnā kōrua. So good to catch up with you, Nicola and Richard. Good to see you still doing the mahi around this place. So just want to mihi to you both. My comment is I was part of the previous Auckland water safety when I was in the police. So seeing now what had started in the beginning to now, just want to acknowledge the work that has been done, and also I think the relationship you have with Water Safe New Zealand. That I think has been a very good move from where it was before. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, because I think it's important that the people around this table know that the relationship is strong now between Drowning Prevention Auckland and Water Safe New Zealand. Thank you, Chair.
Kia ora, thank you. Question, comment from Member Blair.
Yeah, kia ora. Thank you, Richard, kōrua, for the presentation. Just following up on Councillor Henderson's comment. As Richard knows, I spend a lot of time on the West Coast surfing or enjoying my time out there. I see a lot of quite poor decision making from fishermen and also novice surfers who seen firsthand people die, which isn't a nice thing for young lifeguards to have to experience. Is there any kind of way in which council could consider, or in your way, to prevent people from actually walking on those rocks to go fishing? And is there any kind of enforcement that you have seen or researched to actually prevent people from either fishing on the rocks, or people that I see swimming outside flagged areas, they just continue to go straight out, ignore the lifeguards, create an incredible amount of stress and time for those volunteer lifeguards. Is there anything that you think that could, because I see the West Coast is a very dangerous spot, and I've been surfing there for 30 years. So how do we, have you got any ideas on that?
It's a great question, and I'd love to explore that more. Kind of in relation to this, we are doing some research around PRE across the water environment, so what is appropriate, and would really like to acknowledge Auckland Council for their commitment to keeping the PRE up to date and serviced. You know, there's a real high attention to detail over the West Coast in terms of that. But certainly it's something for us to consider more deeply. Just
a follow-up comment, because I just see them walking straight past those signs. They don't care. They put their lives at risk, and then they put others' lives at risk who are forced to save them. So yeah, if we could think outside of signage, and I'd encourage you to anyway. Kia ora.
Look, thank you very much. You've obviously poked a very interesting topic around the table, and I think there's a natural follow-up meeting potentially with yourselves, Councillor Young, Councillor Henderson, Member Blair, Councillor Cooper, also from the West, to actually just have a bit of a kōrero and a bit of a chat about what we could do collectively. Many heads make,
I really
light work,
welcome
for a
that.
better word. So I just think that might be a natural follow-up. So thank you, Councillor Henderson and Cove, and you, Councillor Young, and everybody actually for bringing that up. That's a really, really good point. Yes, congratulations on obviously the work you're doing, making us one of the lowest regions in New Zealand with as far as drowning statistics go. But as you say, one is one too many. So please keep up the good work. I hope our little bit of extra this year will help you around with that. And more importantly, I think that we can have some follow-up meetings and help you on that West Coast issue as well. So thank you very much. Kia ora
Thank you very
tātou.
much.
Have a great day. Right, now we have New Zealand Opera, and I welcome Annabelle Holland, Thomas, Stefan and Joanne.
Tēnā koutou katoa, mihi ana ki te roe whānui, ki ngā mona, ki ngā wā me ngā mātāwaka, mihi mai oha, he mihi aroha ki a koutou katoa. Ki te konihera o Tamaki Makaurau, ki ngā kai hapai me i ngā kai totoko o te kopapane, ko tēnei te mihi nui ki a koutou katoa. Ko Thomas de Malé Burgess toku ingoa, tumoa ki aho ke New Zealand Opera ho e mahi ana. Nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Thomas de Malé Burgess. I'm General Director at New Zealand Opera. With me is Annabelle Holland, Chair of New Zealand Opera, Joanne Cole, our Director of Participation, and Stephen Sinclair, our Director of Finance and Administration. We will now begin our presentation. Despite the massive COVID adjustments and disruptions to our normal business, we still reached close to 20,000 people, both paid and free attendees, over 200,000 through digital views, and more than 1,600 people took part in our activities during the year. Marvellous. Semaphore. So this is the slide that accompanies that. Really sort of a top line figures of how we dealt with the last rather challenging period during COVID. So New Zealand Opera is reimagining what opera might mean in New Zealand to make New Zealand Opera a more relevant and inclusive national cultural organisation that serves a wider audience in Auckland and throughout Aotearoa. 2020 presented significant challenges. The New Zealand Opera team responded to everything thrown at it with great agility, patience, innovation, and with absolute dedication to our artists and audiences. We were forced to postpone our new production of The Marriage of Figaro and cancel over 80 participation activities. However, despite COVID lockdowns, the company was able to deliver tangible outcomes against all of our strategic goals. Part of Auckland Council's Music in Park series, we relocated this free annual concert to Glover Park from Dingle Dell in 2020 due to its popularity. This free event attracts more than 3,000 people and growing, and allows us to feature and celebrate a diverse lineup of kaiwaiata singers. In 2020, we presented 3 site-specific productions on the streets of Auckland, at Ellen Melville Centre, in a room at Hotel de Brett, and at the Holy Trinity Cathedral in Parnell. These productions attracted new audiences and new partnerships, bringing hundreds of people into the heart of the city. This resulted in 16% first-time opera goers attending The Human Voice, the highest uptake of under 25-year-old tickets for $25 ever for a production by this company, and over 3,000 people attending Semele at the Holy Trinity Cathedral in Parnell, which was sold out. In 2020, we saw singers return from overseas, and we were able to pivot by planning smaller events at short notice to offer these affected singers work and engage our audience. Our relationship with the Auckland Museum is now an ongoing one, as we presented a world-class lineup of talent for one night only at the museum, which was sold out. And we repeated this successful concert at St Matthew's in the city the following week. At New Zealand Opera, we're supporting the development of new opera. 624 was a project that was designed to discover new creative voices and challenge preconceptions about what opera is as an art form. The opportunity resonated as we'd hoped across cultures, regions, languages, and heritage, with 110 applicants aged 11 to 57. This included writers, composers, singers, and instrumentalists. We have since been involved in a pitch to the Ministry of Arts, Culture and Heritage to fund a further extension of this concept for national television. Other works in development include The Unruly Tourists, Dua, Prayer for Broken Shelter, and The Strangest of Angels. Also, in the past year, we reframed our artist development program to offer a more robust schedule of coaching and professional development for 3 singers and a pianist. We developed our training program to include a director, and we continued to build educational partnerships, including involvement with University of Auckland, AUT, and secondary schools. 2020 also presented a golden opportunity to push into the digital realm. During lockdown, TVNZ1 screened our 2015 production of Tosca with audio description, receiving over 21,000 views on national television and over 200,000 internationally. We were delighted with the response. While still in level 2, we initiated other digital projects to involve singers affected by lockdown and connect with our isolated audience, for example, a series of Mother's Day serenades. Our site-specific work, Semele, was filmed by Greenstone Productions for presentation in 2021, and we're currently in discussion with 3 broadcasters about distribution of this great New Zealand-made opera film. I'll now hand over to our Director of Participation, Joanne Cole.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Joanne Cole, toku ingoa. We remain committed to nurturing the next generation of opera lovers by providing accessible entry points to this immersive art form for our tamariki and rangatahi. Our annual Opera in Schools tour, workshops, design and vocal, dress rehearsal attendance, student ambassador access, pre-show talks, masterclasses. We also deliver participation activities devised to remove barriers to communities who may experience them, such as young families and members of our low vision and blind community. Our annual open day, free concerts, working alongside teen parent units, delivering the globally renowned Lullaby Project as a partner of Carnegie Hall, and guided touch tours and audio-described performances. Despite COVID cancellations, pardon me, we've returned undaunted, just with frogs in our throats, in 2021. Our Opera in Schools tour achieving its highest reach yet to date, 12,000 tamariki and kayako, despite the snap Auckland lockdown costing us 1 week of scheduled Auckland performances mid-tour. We're grateful for the enduring support of Four Winds, our schools partner, and Foundation North, recently funding nearly 200 Auckland and Northland rangatahi and their whānau travelling to meet us and this art form for the first time at the Kiri Te Kanawa Theatre. The lockdown provided an opportunity to focus our commitment to authentically engage with and embark on the company's desired bicultural journey. Te Amakura Consultancy was engaged and the agenda was further developed. This was assisted for 6 months by our Toi Māori intern, Awhimai Fraser, with mentor support from Tania Heke. The addition of Tūtiramai New Zealand consultants further supported staff capability alongside Te Amakura as tikanga and cultural competency advisors. Awhimai now sits as participation coordinator and kaihare ao, a newly established role developed to tautoko the company in further progressing and implementing the bicultural agenda. It is also key for our company to hold all staff in a safe and encouraging environment as we jump on board this bicultural waka, and we therefore began this year with an all-staff marae wānanga at the Mataatua Marae in Mangere, also attended by our board chair. Ongoing wānanga includes an all-staff New Zealand Opera Waiata workshop with board representation, Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori 2021, performing at the 2021 Korone Hana for the first time, and Te Tiritia Waitangi workshop, which will end our year. Popoia te kakano kia puawai, we intend to nurture the seeds we have been planting so that they may blossom into pathways for future generations. Kia ora, Thomas.
Ihitaya Vea, Star Navigator, a new work by Tim Finn and Celestine Hitiura-Vaita, tells the story of Tupaya and James Cook on the maiden voyage of the Endeavour. The production was staged at Vodafone Event Centre in Manukau with Manukau Symphony Orchestra, Auckland Choral and the Graduate Choir in New Zealand, all new partnerships for New Zealand Opera. 47% of the audience was new to New Zealand Opera. The Minister for Arts and Culture, the Honourable Carmel Sapoloni, attended and has endorsed our company for the ability to be able to present traditional productions alongside exciting new works that are unique to Aotearoa. We have just concluded a highly successful Auckland season of Mozart's The Marriage of Figaro at the Kirite Kanawa Theatre, Aotea Centre. Over 6,000 people saw the show in Auckland. I'll now hand over finally to our Director of Finance, Stephen Sinclair.
In the December 2020 year, New Zealand Opera spent $4.7 million on Auckland delivery and infrastructure, which equates to 87% of all our direct economic activity that was in or for Auckland. In the year December 2021, although as a proportion of our overall spending is down to 70% due to an ability to tour, in actual dollars we are budgeting to increase that to $4.8 million. The $1.1 million from Auckland City Council through the Auckland Regional Amenities Funding Board facilitates 4 times that level of direct economic value for Auckland through our company. Some of our key areas of spend are listed for both 2020 and 2021, with just over $1 million spent on people in 2020 practicing their specialised craft, including creatives, principal artists, chorus, music staff, technical crew and orchestras. This is going to increase to a budget of $1.08 million in 2021. In 2020, we spent $141,000 on accommodation and living allowances in Auckland, and this is increasing to $266,000 in 2021. Our marketing and production costs, which include set, costume, prop constructions, lighting, logistics, production filming, were $603,000 in 2020 and budgeted at $576,000 in 2021. Total delivery for projects in Auckland was $1.8 million in 2020 and will increase to a budget of $2.1 million in 2021. Our infrastructure spend ensures permanent employment of our Auckland team, a headcount of 20, for office, rehearsal, storage, manufacturing spaces and our ability to put productions on stage, drive our participation in outreach programs and our diversity strategies, support and develop emerging artists, facilitate new work, engage with supporters, sponsors, funders, and maintain compliance with regulatory requirements such as health and safety and financial. It also allows us the ability to adapt as we did during the COVID lockdowns in 2020. Thomas.
Looking ahead, we have an exciting new co-production with Black Grace coming up in September. This is a dance opera with 2 highly specialised Auckland companies working together to deliver a truly unique New Zealand opera production. The time is right to tell our own stories and find a wider audience for opera in Aotearoa. We are hugely grateful for the tautoko of Auckland Council through the ARAFB. Your incredible support is the reason we can continue to make Tamaki Makaurau the national headquarters of opera and push ahead with our mission to make opera for everyone. Tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora, thank you very much for that very informative presentation. Our first question goes to Councillor Kuhn.
Tēnā koe, Madam Chair. Kia ora koutou. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou. Thank you for your presentation. It's very comprehensive. And thank you for the opportunity to attend the Marriage of Figaro. That was a beautiful evening. I can't, in terms of the context of this presentation, ignore the concerns that have been raised directly with me about the circumstances of the departure of 3 of your directors and concerns that have been raised about the expenditure on artists compared with administration and a whole lot of other issues that have been brought to my attention. And I just wonder, this might not be the forum that you want to speak to that, but if there's an opportunity that we could find, Madam Chair, a way in which we can get into some more details so that you can actually respond directly, so we can get a fuller understanding, because I think this is at a very high level context, but when Auckland Council's putting over $1 million into New Zealand Opera, we can't ignore issues when they're raised with us. So kia ora.
Kia ora, Councillor. The Auckland Regional Amenities Funding Board that we meet with regularly, both as part of our ongoing responsibilities, but also sometimes as part of our request to talk about various matters internal to the company. Those meetings have been ongoing and are ongoing and are often very detailed in their discussions. It allows for that granular discussion and questioning by members of the funding board of the company. Any period of change is very challenging, and this company, for the first time in its history, last year published an annual report that was quite detailed, both in terms of finances as well as other aspects of the managing of the company. Part of that is a general move towards transparency. I know that our chair, Annabel Holland, also wants to say something on that point.
Tēnā koe, Chair. Tēnā koutou katoa, councillors. Can I just reiterate how grateful we are for the support from Auckland Council and also from the funding board. When it comes to the governance, the board had approved the 2022 program and budget in March, and we reconfirm our commitment to that and also to our strategic agenda and direction, the detail of which you've seen more of today. I welcome having a more intimate conversation at a future point. And also just to say that immediately I was in touch with the chair of the Auckland Regional Fundings Board so that she was and the board were completely across where New Zealand Opera was at when we had those resignations. We have 7 board members on the board, so 2 from Wellington and myself from Christchurch, and then the remaining 4 are in Auckland. And I am always aware of succession planning for governors, and so I've been researching that along the way, and I'm very confident that soon we'll be able to announce some new governors there. Just to inform that decision making, we have a skills matrix that provides us with a clear framework of the skills that we need around the board table to be able to guide and support a modern opera company. And it's very clear where we need to be looking, and that has always been in my foresight with governors. So thank you.
Thank you. Can I just clarify, Madam Chair? So, what is am I hearing that it's best for me to take those concerns to a RAFA and go through that mechanism, or are you offering that?
I'm happy to have a conversation. Myself, we're transparent about things. I don't know, Chair. You might have
my process, because obviously a RAFA is our filter, for want of a better word. That's the governance framework of which council works through. So my first suggestion to you, councillor, is to talk to Anita directly, and then potentially have a meeting with anybody else, from New Zealand Opera as well. But go to Anita in the first instance, because they hold the governance responsibility to liaise directly with the amenities. I mean, the fact that we have them here is to give us a higher level of transparency over our funding, but they are the filter and they hold the relationship. Okay, thank you for that. Next question or comment from Member Blair.
Ka nui te mihi atu ki a koutou, te poari, te tumu whakarai Thomas, i tō mihi puakina mai i te tīmatatanga o tēnei hui o tira ki a koutou te tiamana, tēnā koe hoki o tira koutou katoa. I just want to really commend you on your bicultural journey. It's very obvious that your board and senior executive take it very seriously. I think you're an example for that. I work in a lot of corporates and don't see that a lot amongst the board who are non-Māori, who have a command of te reo. So I really want to keep encouraging you in any way I can support you, or the IMSB, or we would do that. Certainly this council could take a observation that would be a great journey for us all to have a command of te reo Māori and bicultural approach. Putting the board kaupapa aside, I'd just be fair to say and have a comment that opera hasn't really been in a Māori world. And so I looked at the content that you've got, your whakatauki, employing people to take care of kaupapa Māori, tikanga Māori is to be commended. And I believe that it will show that in diversity that you'll get growth amongst the Māori and Pacific community. I think having a bicultural relationship that you have and a bicultural strategy will allow other ethnic minorities to feel that they can enter through the door of opera. Certainly it's a strange world to me, but I'm not. But seeing that you have a strategy like this, it's piqued my interest too, and it will pique other Māori interest. How has this journey of biculturalism impacted on your company? Could you comment there?
Kia ora, thank you, Councillor. It was incredibly revealing for us to begin the year with the Wānanga Marae visit at Matatuara Marae. The emotion was not far beneath the surface, and I think it has served as a unifying force for all of us, and to consider perhaps the trap or the first reaction is to try to add a Māori layer to what you're doing, and the difference between working in that realm or from that viewpoint to actually embracing a te ao Māori perspective is immensely different. So it is a journey for all of us, and we have needed support with reactions from some of our long-standing supporters and benefactors. This is a time of change for everyone. I think there have been examples in a commercial sense with some businesses we can all think of who have also encountered this kind of pushback in a very public forum. But for us, we are also interested in the relationships and the organic growth and doing things authentically. We're incredibly grateful to have the support of the consultants we have working alongside us, which helps build our confidence. And I would say, without sounding grand, I think that every question we have has been met with grace and patience and understanding. So we're hugely grateful for that. Even if it's devising mihi, we're now at a stage where we have our own booklet to work from, or that kind of thing. So kind of kicking off the training wheels and starting to build that capability amongst the staff. Is there anything? Yeah.
Could I just add, we actually sang a waiata at the opening of Marriage of Figaro. And so for the company, that really is quite a moment for us to step publicly, and also Thomas's mihi. So kia ora.
Kia ora. As a part-time trying to be wannabe bass singer in Kapaka, I just want to commend you, and any if there's any open days I might to try and come and sing, I'd probably take it up. So kia ora koutou.
I look forward to that. Kia ora. Councillor Hills.
Thank you, Chair, and kia ora koutou katoa. Thank you very much for the presentation, and I just want to thank you also for the invitation to Marriage of Figaro. I have never been to an opera before, and I thought since you were coming here and our involvement with you, that I thought it was important to see. I'm very supportive and interested in the arts. I like going to theatre and concerts and galleries and things, but opera has never been something that I have felt attracted to or understood. So I thought it was very good, but I really like to see what you were doing, and even though it is creating some waves, which I think the only way you make change is to create those waves and be strong and determined you're doing it for the right reason, to open up opera to other audiences, because as you know, Tamaki Makaurau has changed. It's not changing. We're not heading towards diversity, like we are not the same country or city we were 10 years ago, 30 years ago, or even probably 5 years ago. So I think it's crucial for different art forms to change and attract different audiences, because to be honest, sitting in that room there was predominantly one audience or potentially, so it's so crucial to make sure that you're broadening who comes to what you do, whether it's the free events or the paid events. So I know whether it's the unruly tourists or whether it's the other artistic direction you're taking New Zealand Opera in, I think it's important that you're doing that, even though it might be creating some hard conversations between you and people who are connected with and really support the way you were doing things or currently are. So I just want to say that I can't imagine it's easy to have those conversations, but I think it's really, really important. So thank you.
Kia ora. Look, I just want to close by saying thank you very much. Again, I thought Marriage of Figaro was fantastic, outstanding, and I think the fact that the story was fun. You had people jumping out of windows and across the bedroom and hiding in the closet, and it made it a really entertaining opera, because there's obviously some very serious operas. Also on a personal journey, the opera in the park outgrew Dingledale. Although I must say I have had a few complaints from the neighbours of Dingledale who are able to sit at home and listen, and that no longer is the case. So I think Glover Park has been a fantastic next step to be able to take a bigger audience. I also want to congratulate you on the work that you did out at the Vodafone Event Centre. To have 47% of a different community come into experience opera, I think was an excellent thing to do, and maybe I would love to see that happening again, So huge congratulations for the work that you do. I might come and join Member Blair on stage, and see what we can rustle up. But congratulations, kia ora, and kati, thank you very much. Right, now we have the Stardome Observatory and Planetarium, Victoria Travers and Richard Sorensen. Morena, good morning.
Morena, thank you very much for having us here, and hello, Peter. Good to see you in a different venue. I enjoyed the New Zealand Opera presentation, and I actually loved singing, and I was in the chorus for the Star Navigator, so that was a special day. That really was down in the photo. Like previous presentation with New Zealand Opera, we're also undergoing some major changes, which I would like to outline. But first of all, I just want to start off with some of the highlights in the year, which was the appointment of our new Chief Executive, Victoria, and also fixing up a long-term lease arrangements with the Maunga Authority, and starting a very positive and long-term relationship with that group. So our lease is now very sound, which we're very happy about. So Victoria, if I could just pass over to you, please.
Sure. Well, na mihi nui ki ngā mana whenua o tēnei rohe e Tamaki Makaurau. Me mihi ki tika ngā mana whenua. Ka mihi ki councillors, Independent Statutory Board, ka mihi ki kia tātou. Ko pauwhakahaere ki te Stardome ahau, ko Victoria Travers, taka wingoa. It's my pleasure to be here, my first time here meeting with the council. So, as Richard said, yes, it's been rather a year, rather a 15 months, and as Nicola said prior to me, it was a great way to, in a strange way, to cement leadership with the first challenge being on the block of COVID-19. Thank you very much for having us here today. I'm very pleased to be able to update you on our organisation and our operations and how we've sort of navigated the last 15 months and, since COVID and prior to that as well. And also just a chance to acknowledge and thank the council, the ratepayers of Auckland, and via the Amenities Funding Board for the vital funding that we get through the RAFA Act. The operational funding we receive, it makes up about 50% of our funding in any one year. Last year it of course made up a little bit more than that because of the financial shock of COVID-19, and it was again, specifically, we'd like to thank the council, the mayor, and for the really swift and prudent decisions that were made to help us get through, and in particular, Anita Killeen with her leadership of the funding board. So probably just talk about some of our key highlights of the last period of time since we've reported. So as Richard has said, it was tremendous to come in as a new CEO and have our lease secured. The great thing about having a lease secured with the Tupuna Maunga Authority is that it's more than just a leaseholder relationship. It's, as they represent mana whenua, it's a growing sign of their confidence in us, and we see, our role as lessees on the maunga is to uphold the mana of maunga kia. We've been taking that we see that as a real a sort of north point for us in terms of its also driving some of our transformation, particularly towards improving our own bicultural practice and being able to uphold the mana of maunga kia. Making it through COVID-19 was obviously a pretty great highlight. Of the last period of time, it was 111 days that we were closed to operations and about 30 where we were on half capacity. We've also, over the last period of time, strengthened our relationship and deepened our relationships with knowledge holders and mātauranga Māori, mātauranga whetū, and this is a very exciting opportunity for us in the future as we come up. We've also upgraded our Zeiss telescope, which was terrific with the help of our volunteers, and every major city in the world has a significant observatory and planetarium, and we're very proud that we get to play that role. Big highlight for us, it's a double-edged sword, but with visitation, our experience of COVID, nobody knew last year. It wasn't just the financial shock, it was how we dealt with the uncertainty that followed that. We're very pleased to report, and I believe this is the experience of many amenities and facilities. Our visitors came back with absolute gusto. We weren't sure how people would respond. It was also fortuitous that when we came out of the first lockdown, it coincided with Matariki. So Matariki, obviously our busiest time of the year, and so we made some changes to our Matariki program just to ground it a little bit more authentically, and it was led by our tangata whenua staff, and we were sold out, and we had to put on additional shows right the way through, and that's just and we'll be growing on that in the coming years. Also, social media has been fantastic for us. We've changed our approach with social media, and for any of you who are familiar with the kind of metrics that are used there, we've had some posts recently that have got nearly a million people engaging with them, and if anyone follows our Instagram, you'll see that we're just getting more and more engagement through that way. I was just going to talk a little bit, and probably Richard might contribute here, in terms of the wero that we've faced apart from the obvious one, over the last 12 months, and a little bit about how we're tackling them. So COVID-19, how did we negotiate it? Well, like all organisations, we had to make some very, very quick decisions, and there were some really material impacts that it had upon us. We had some redundancies that we had to make. We had some significant cost savings. It was the first thing we did, a reduction in our projected income, our self-generated, as well as a hold on the, prudently, there was a hold on we kept the funding, the RAF funding at the same rate for the last financial year. We deferred any spending that wasn't necessary, but that held up some of the development of our new programs. Going with that bit, sorry. The other wero that we have in front of us is we have an ageing building, we have ageing infrastructure. In order to stay relevant for our visitors, we really need to invest in that in the future. So obviously with the COVID kind of climate going on there, it'll be a challenge for us as we move through the upcoming few years. Our environmental impact, we see this as a major wero in front of us in terms of, we're in a climate emergency. What's our contribution to in the way we operate, but also in the messaging we give out to the public? So that is something we're tackling very keenly, and it's a big focus for us. And also ongoing, it's always about staying relevant for our visitors. A little bit about visitation in terms of how we return on the investment that Auckland makes in us. We very proudly, we're one of the few venues that's actually open for 14 hours a day, every day. So it's quite interesting when, it's great that all these other facilities are open in the evening. We're open every single, six days a week, we're open in the evenings, and we start in the mornings. Also very proudly, our visitation is primarily domestic, and then of that, it is primarily Aucklanders, particularly when it comes to our education visitation. We really, really honour these visitors coming through. through our doors, and we put a lot of effort into manakiing them. Our future audience is that audience that comes through as tamariki, and in particular come through as school children. Between 50 and 60% of our visitation every year is school visitors. In terms of the, I'll probably talk a little bit, I don't know if you wanted to add anything, Richard, but in terms of the major initiatives we have, I'll actually hand over to Richard because we've got a very important strategic opportunity.
Thank you very much. Yes, we're in the middle of our strategic plan, and the main outcome there has been a realisation that we need a true biculturalism in our facility, recognising Maori astronomy. So that is going to be a huge change that we're going to start working towards. And a general indigenisation of our organisation. So it's been a fascinating process. Our staff has been fully involved. I've noticed a real change in the way they think about things. And looking forward, we're hopeful that people are going to have a different experience when they walk in there. That makes it very clear that you're living at 37 degrees south, looking into a sky that's very different from anywhere else in the world, and a sky that was interpreted by Maori in a very different way, of course, from the way Western science interprets things. And I'm hopeful that we'll have a true and meaningful narrative about that experience. So thank you.
And just to build on tautoko, Richard's words, yes, so obviously that was a very, very happy day last year when Matariki was announced as a miharo, a public holiday for us all from next year. So it is amazing, and we'll be building on, and we're doing a lot of work starting in September on new programs. As well as that, we want to be able to extend our program of Māori astronomy outside of just Matariki every year. It's really important, and as Richard said, the commitment to biculturalism and a bicultural understanding of the skies above us is really fundamental to our transformation. Māori astronomy should be available throughout the year, and which is why we're developing such great relationships with knowledge holders. So that's really significant, and moving through that. The other major thing in terms of our transformation, as I mentioned before, is really picking up the whirl around the climate crisis and what our contribution is to the environment. So I'll leave it there and see if there's any questions.
Thank you very much. I'll have one question, Councillor Coombe.
Thank you. Tēnā koroa, thanks so much for the presentation. I have to admit, in my credentials as an Aucklander, the fact that I've never been to the Star Dome is very embarrassing. So I just want to, I'd like to ask, would you be open to perhaps facilitating a tour for councillors who might like to attend and visit?
Oh, absolutely. We would love to manaki you all at Star Dome. So yes, I will set that up very quickly. Wonderful. It'd be great to have you.
Appreciate it. I'm sure there's a few other councillors who would be happy to come along as well. Kia ora.
Kia ora. What I will say, though, if you are always struggling to find a present for someone who has got everything, a star is a great gift. So on that positive note, thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you for what you do. And Matariki, of course, is right here, isn't it? So thank you. Right, now we have the Auckland Festival Trust, John Judge, David Inns, and Vanessa Zigliani.
Good morning, thank you.
Morning, Morena.
Morena. I'll start inevitably by thanking the Council and the Funding Board for their support. We have had a terribly disrupted last 2 years. I was at a party on the Saturday night just before the opening of the last festival, only to have everyone's phones go off with an alarm to say we're about to get locked down under COVID again, in an attempt by some evil being to disrupt yet another festival. Luckily, you'll hear from David with a huge amount of work from the people who managed to put most things on, albeit on different days than we'd attended and sometimes in a different way. I think I would like to particularly acknowledge Anita Colleen's support during both the last two festivals. She has been absolutely excellent. You know, when I go and see her and say, I think we might be going to lose 1.8 million, or such thing when we go through. We like to give the really worst news before we come to the good news at the start. And she's been very helpful actually at helping us work through what was going on. And equally, I think the support, Desley, of you and the councillors to make sure that we can continue has been excellent, and we truly appreciate that. Luckily, in the 2020 festival, we actually ended up with a slight surplus. I think when I sat down with David and Vanessa and went through their figures, and it looked like we would be losing a very large amount of money, with a combination of huge work by our own team, the emergency support we got, and eventually Creative New Zealand paying out a reasonable amount of money. We ended up with a slight surplus. Last year we handled it differently because we were concerned about what would happen, so we didn't commit particularly a lot of the advertising and programming money for a start, so that we had what we thought was hopefully never going to need to be used, a fund to deal with COVID. And a combination of that and the way we contracted with people means that we will have a surplus when we get to June this year. And in fact, we were aiming to rebuild our capital over a 3-year period. We'll be ahead of our targets at the end of the second year, which is, I think, a complete and utter miracle. Yes, it's a miracle. It's actually not a miracle. It's down to the work of these two people and the team we have, who are very good, along with many of our individual supporters putting their hands in their pockets to assist us with extra money to make sure that we come out the other side positively. What I'll do now is hand over to David, so that, David, you can comment in more detail on what's going on, and then we'll be happy to take questions.
Thank you, John. Well, to acknowledge Shane McCullough, who's not with us today, our artistic director, who came in March 2020 to watch the festival shut down, and then programmed and delivered 21 in this COVID restricted environment. It's fair to say it's been a roller coaster ride over the last 15 months. The festival organisation and team, and a reasonably good financial, artistic and social space going forward for 22, so that's exciting. The 2020 festival was suddenly shut down just 8 days into a 19-day season, with staff working rapidly to get 320 international artists home and close down temporary venues. And despite the time pressures and the changing COVID levels, this was successfully achieved, with the last truck being picked up, containers picked up from the square 5 minutes before the official level 4 lockdown started. So I have to acknowledge the incredible team we have that put a festival together, not just internally, but the contractors that come and our venue partners and everyone else we work with in this city to, you know, make that festival really part of Tamaki Makaurau. So we got past 2020, as John said, with a small operating surplus, and we sat at home and started planning and starting to shape what AAF 2021 could be. We did this in line with the Trust's risk management plan, taking into account the ongoing and changing COVID environment as best we could, and the fact that the borders were closed. So while opening the 2021 festival was delayed, as John mentioned, due to the lockdowns in February by 6 days, we did go on to stage what we believe is a successful 100% Aotearoa program under the theme of Aroha, which was a theme that we felt embraced the time that we were in, and a theme and a program which was a response to the fact that our borders were closed. Traditionally, we've had a 60% international program, 40% domestic. That's been roughly what the mix is. And of course, to go to 100% Aotearoa program was the wrong word, but it was actually rewarding in many ways to see that breadth and wealth of artistry within this country, being able to put on what ended up being 84 events. Just going to put some images on the screen. This is not a PowerPoint as such, but this gives I guess, reflects the depth, breadth, diversity and the reach of the 2021 festival with the 100% Aotearoa program. Despite being shut down for those first 6 days, with the support of our artists, our venues and our audiences, we were able to reschedule 12 of the events into the latter part of the festival, Through this and extending the festival through to the 11th of April as opposed to finishing on the 24th of March as originally scheduled, we delivered 85% of the advertised and planned program. The program included 7 world premieres, works in Te Reo Māori, Kapahaka, Pacifica Theatre, and 2 new works, Asian New Zealand works in dance and theatre. We planned a very extensive accessibility program and a strong education program. Sadly, the uptake in these did drop back after that first lockdown, but the seeds are set well to rebuild that again in 2022. In line with the organisational and programming strategy and Auckland Festival Trust's Māori language plan, Atahua Papa joined us in the programming team in August 2020 in a new permanent role of Kahatua Māori with responsibility for working with the artistic director and staff on commissioning, presenting Māori content within the overall festival program. And she's supported in this role by Inon Dalamere, who's our po tikanga, our external advisor in all things tikanga. The 21 festival, despite being 100% NZ and despite being focused back in, gave employment opportunities to over 1,000 artists, 150 support staff, our core team, as well as all the service industries around that, and everyone was remunerated as contracted. The Trust has had a long partnership basis to its business, and we continue to build strong partnerships with Auckland Theatre Company, Auckland Philharmonia, Auckland Live, Q Theatre, Summer Nova, which was a Auckland Unlimited product, the galleries, including Auckland Gallery, Te Tuhi and Te Uru, and to work with them to deliver what we saw as world-class work and maximise the resources across the sector. We also successfully developed new partnerships with organisations such as MOTAT and groups including the Migrant Mamas and the Polynesian Panthers, which saw a focus on their 50th year anniversary with the Dawn Raids Educate to Liberate exhibition at Studio One and the Panthers' large outdoor mural painted on the wall on the corner of Gundry Street. Alongside our local and national delivery, the festival continued to showcase many New Zealand work with the aim of selling shows from Aotearoa and especially Auckland onto Australian festivals and promoting work that features at the festival further afield internationally. So I've referred to some of the challenges, but just to highlight the ones we faced in this period, I guess the main challenge for a festival is that it happens in 3 weeks. It's in a specific window. So planning a large-scale event in a 3-week window in a COVID world did mean we had to plan with some flexibility to be able to move work. And while we lost 7 works that we didn't present, 2 of those are actually, I guess, in our store, ready to pop out again when the opportunity's right. Probably not in the festival, but working with another partner to put those up. And Jack and the Beanstalk's a prime example of that. While we presented an exceptionally strong lineup of artists from Aotearoa, we were unable to engage any international artists that do attract the larger audiences and do drive quite a lot of our larger revenue streams. We received strong support from funders and individual givers, but faced challenges, I guess, from the corporate sector, especially the tourist and hospitality sector. We had to deal with a lack of flexibility in the Ticketmaster ticketing system. When you postpone a show, it's got to be re-entered before you can put it on sale again. So there's often a 7-day delay between cancelling and being able to sell that show again, and that's something we really need to look forward to solving. And probably the one that has the longer term effect for us is many of the technical and production staff that have supported this sector for a long time have moved to other areas of employment or moved into film. So there's a big space now for companies like the Festival, NZ Opera & Co. to rebuild that base, which is very core of technical and production expertise. We believe that the residents and ratepayers of Auckland benefited from the festival in many ways, even though they were truncated. We grew our Tamaki Makaurau footprint, 24 venues, shows in places including Waiheke Island, Takapuna, Manukau, Mangere, Warkworth and Glen Eden. We produced and presented an extremely strong Māori and Pacifica program of work, including work in Te Reo. We probably increased the mix of free and low-cost events given the climate at the time. We will follow a similar pattern for 22, building back into a more commercial proposition for 23. So looking forward, We definitely want to reintroduce international programming in 22, but in reality this will mostly come from Australia or through Australia, and Shona's just been in Melbourne for a slightly longer stay than she planned, looking at work with the Australian festivals that we can tour as a network, assuming our borders open internally, and also looking at works internationally that are of a small scale that we can bring in quarantine in Australia and bring onto us. And the other thing we really need to do is plan and build large-scale works like the big Group Fs and the Carabosses that the festival's been famous for here at home. And that's sort of a 2 to 3 year strategy. So we're not reliant on, I guess, borders. We're not reliant on exorbitant freight and travel costs to bring those very big, large-scale works in. Next festival will be the 10th to the 27th of March, hopefully intact in 2022. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to open for questions, and I'll go first to Councillor Walker. Thank you.
Commendations first. I mean, remarkable and wonderful talent showcased. A couple of questions. I guess my interest is, I would suggest that what you've done is a case study in pivoting and adapting to a very challenging environment. And as much and all as you've communicated some information to us in your report, I'm assuming that there's quite a bit of underlying information that will be relevant to the arts and culture sector around Auckland and probably New Zealand. So my question around that is how you're utilising that information and your experience in putting it out there as it goes to both yourself but also all of the groups and the like that companies that you've been engaging with.
Do you want to talk to the TRA special project?
Yes, so the TRA Special Project, thank you, is our new research project that we've been able to undertake with funding from Creative New Zealand, and looking at the behaviour of audiences wider than Auckland Arts Festival within the environment, COVID environment, and how we can react to that in a programming sense, in a presentation sense. So we've undertaken this project, as I said, not just looking at festival audiences, but looking at audiences that participate in the creative industries and the arts and cultural sector in Auckland as a whole. And we will be making that research available to our colleagues and peers once that is concluded, which is pretty soon. Actually, we're about to get their results from our TRA research agency. I think wider, as regards to our COVID pivoting strategy, I mean, we work as part of the whole wider landscape of Auckland and arts partners and our venues, and I think there's quite a large amount of sharing of knowledge and experience as we go forward with the experiences that we've had in the last 12 months.
Thank you. Look, with no further questions, I'd just like to thank you very much. You run an outstanding program, and it's been challenging times, as you've heard all the amenities say, but I know for you especially, and how you packed out that quickly and close to the wire was pretty amazing. So congratulations. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Members, that brings us to the end of our amenities presentations over the last 2 months, and I've also added a second... Pardon? Sorry. Okay. I'll move in a second. I've actually added a chair's recommendation for the second one to thank the funding board themselves, because as we know, they are our conduit between us and the amenities for the outstanding work that they've done. And we've had a really tough year, as you're aware, and it's been a lot of extra work by the amenities board. So I'm sure that you will all join with me and thanking them as well. So I'll move, and Councillor Henderson will second. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you very much. Right, we move on now to item 9, and that